So I bought the FeiyuTech WG2 gimbal for the GoPro Hero 5 probably a month or two ago now, because I wanted to try it out and compare it with the DJI Osmo. I've had the Osmo a year or two and I haven't used it a great deal because it's quite awkward. It's very bulky. It's also fiddly, so like I hadn't used this for a couple of months. So when I tried to set it up for the video, first of all, I had to update the app on the smartphone. Then it warns me that the firmware for the Osmo was out of date. So there were actually two versions of firmware since this was last updated. I couldn't update to the newest version. I had to update to the second version. And then once I'd done that, I could update to the new version, which is it's just awkward. When you want to use it, you have to power on the Osmo and that will set up. Then you have to connect to the Wi-Fi. So you have to wait for the Osmo Wi-Fi to come up. You can then connect to that. And then once you've connected, then you have to start the Go app, the DJI app, which is that one. You have to skip the adverts. You then have to select equipment, camera, and then you're ready to go. So then you've got your view there, and it's more flexible in that you've got the manual settings. You can start and stop your video and picture. You can adjust your gimbal settings. So in those ways, it's a little bit more flexible. But what I like about the WG2 is that you literally just have to turn it on. So you just hold down the button, it'll power up, and then it's running. So that then will do pretty much the same job in terms of it'll try and keep the camera still as you're moving around. If you want to adjust the angle, you can just tilt it and then it will hold that position. It's got different modes, so as it comes, these turn on mode, it will follow left and right, but up and down it will hold the angle that it was started up or you've adjusted. You can adjust with a little button here. You can change that with 2 clicks to a mode where it will follow up and down as well as left and right. And then there's a 3-click, which is, I believe, selfie mode. Yeah, so it'll turn and face you. But again, because you could just turn the mount around, I'm not really sure the value of that. The main advantage I like is the form factor. So it's much more compact and it's much lighter. If you want to hold it with a handle, it's got a tripod thread underneath. So I can just get a cheap foam handle and just stick that on. Or if you want to do you've got screws on both sides, so you can have the choice of mounting options, either for a handle or if you want to put it on a tripod or a suction mount or a stick. The mounting for the Osmo is much more tricky because it uses an odd connection, which they call the rosette, which works very well. Let me just take the phone off. Yeah, unscrew that. So basically it is a tripod quarter thread, but it's got this serrated ring around it, which the genuine Osmo accessories key into, which is probably needed because the handle is so tall and because of the weight of it. It would flop around if you just had a thread only without any kind of positioning hold. So I can see why they've done that, but it does mean that you then have to buy the official DJI accessories to key into that. So this is to mount it on a tripod. So that then screws in there and you can put it on any tripod mounting. So you could put it on a suction cup or a tripod or a stick that wasn't designed for that. Whereas obviously with the WG2, because it's just got a tripod thread under it, you can just put a selfie stick or anything else onto that really easily. Another advantage of the Osmo is it's got this little joystick so you can move the camera around, which is useful. However, for the FeiyuTech, you can buy their smart remote, which you can, it's about 20 something pounds. That will then bind to the gimbal. I'm not sure if it's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, but either way, once you've connected up, you can then use that to move the camera up and down, left and right, which works perfectly well. You can monitor the GoPro using a smartphone because the GoPro has Wi-Fi. So if you want to see what you're recording, if you wanted to mount this on the bonnet of a car, you can just use that and the joystick, which would work really well. So in those ways, it's good. The only really downside of the WG gimbal is that it doesn't hold level when you move sideways. So if I move it side to side, it'll actually roll left and right. And I don't really understand why it does that. The Osmo doesn't do it, and I don't believe any of the other gimbals I've had have done this. I did query it with FeiyuTech, and they say that the handheld version, the G5, doesn't do this, which makes it sound like they've done it deliberately. And I can see if you've got the gimbal on a chest mount, say on a mountain bike riding slalom, then actually having the rolling as you turn is actually quite a nice look. And I just can only think they've done it deliberately for that. They say that you shouldn't, if you want a handheld gimbal, you should buy the G5 version, but I'm not convinced that it would be different. And I don't really, the whole point of this is to have one gimbal that you can use with a handle or on a mount. So that makes no sense to me. The other thing people always complain about with gimbals is noise, the gimbal noise on the video. And I think if you're going to use a gimbal, you just have to accept that your noise is not going to be very good. With the Osmo, the noise is absolutely atrocious. People can't believe how bad it is. When it first came out, I think people thought it was something that could be fixed, and it can't really. DJI's solution, I mean, it does have a microphone socket on the front, so you can plug in an external microphone. So the best option is to plug in an external mic. DJI came up with this little flex mic that just sticks in here, just to get the microphone slightly off the handle, slightly away from the motor noise. It makes a little bit of an improvement, but it's still unusable. You can plug in external mics, so you can get like the Rode mic, which you can get clamps onto the smartphone holder here and plugs in there, but you're getting quite a big setup there. The WG2 gimbal, the sound is better than the Osmo, but it's still not great. I've got a couple of samples that I will stick on at the end so you can hear the audio. Watch where you're going. Watch where you're going. I personally wouldn't rely on the audio from either of them or from any gimbal camera. By its nature, the gimbal has got motors in it, and it's going to be working to hold the camera level. So you're always going to have sound from those motors, and it's always going to get picked up in the audio. So I think you just have to accept that. Either record the audio with another camera, or use a cheap audio recorder like a Zoom H1, or you can use a lavalier mic, a tie clip microphone. On the Osmo, you can just plug it in. With the GoPro, you can't, because you have to use a big adapter, which would then be too heavy for the gimbal. But audio-wise, I think, whilst the WG2 is better than the Osmo, then neither of them are brilliant, and I don't think any gimbal will be. Yeah, so my original thoughts were that I could use this WG2 gimbal and I wouldn't need the Osmo anymore. I could just eBay that. But to be honest, because of the differences between them, I think actually there's reasons for both. This WG2 gimbal is perfect as just a grab and go gimbal. You don't have to mess about setting it up. You literally just turn it on and you're going. The other advantage is you can use it with different cameras. So it comes set for the Hero 5, but it also comes with the mounting bracket for the Session. So you can stick that on. You can pop pretty much any GoPro shaped camera on it, because it has if I just turn it off, it has adjustable balance. So basically, if you undo this screw, you can slide the mounting arm left and right, so you can vary it depending on the weight of the camera. Obviously a Session is lighter, so you'd move it this way. The Hero 5 is probably the heaviest it can accommodate, so you pop that all the way over, and then once you screw that back up to lock it, that then will balance with with a range of cameras. So that's a plus point. Obviously the Osmo comes with its camera built in, so it's balanced already, but it's not waterproof, it's bulky. You can't take the camera off and use it on its own, which you can with the Hero 5. Cost-wise, there's not much in it really. The FeiyuTech gimbal is a couple of £100, but you need a Hero 5 or similar, which takes it up to the same cost as the Osmo. So whilst it's more flexible, it's no cheaper. Obviously you could use this with a GoPro clone like a GIT2 or the Yi 4K or a range of any of the GoPro clones. So that's an advantage if you're trying to sort of go for a reduced cost, which obviously there's no option with the Osmo but to use the camera that's built on. So I've got some test footage just to compare the two, so I'll pop that on at the end, and I hope that's useful. Watch where you're going. Stop.